Welcome to the Subjective Professor podcast, where we reject coercion and hypocrisy. This is episode 151, and we're going to talk about Kamala Harris, how the world sees America, and the phenomena of lying. So, before she became vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris was a senator from California. She was one of the first people to drop out of the presidential race in 2020. And this was because she was essentially destroyed by Tulsi Gabbard on stage on one of these ridiculous debate events. So, in that situation, I guess there is value in these debates. I mean, if people were allowed to go after each other like that, that would be awesome. Her record in the criminal justice system and as prosecutor or top cop, as some people might say, did not really benefit all of society. Now, if you look up her record as prosecutor, attorney general, or as a prosecutor, you'll see that you know it doesn't really describe the things that she did in a clear way, right? So I looked up online how they describe her, um, her credentials, uh, what were her achievements as a prosecutor in California, and it showed it in a very, very favorable light. And then you listen to what Tulsi Gabbard said on stage during the Democratic debates, and it's pretty horrifying. And what is very telling is that on that debate stage, when Tulsi Gabbard brought up just a couple of things that Kamala Harris had done, she did not refute anything. She did not address the issues that were raised. Instead, she tried to deflect, she tried to pivot, she redirected. Right. So that would be a tacit admission, right? A nonverbal admission that the accusation was in fact true, but she simply did not know how to defend herself. So what did she actually do? It's difficult, right? Unless you have really gifted powers of research, the patience and the time to dig through a lot of information, it might not necessarily be so easy to the average person. Okay. So, in light of how a lot of online materials are being scrubbed, edited, uh, made difficult to find because she's now the Democratic Party's candidate for president, because of all of these factors, you have alternate media, alternate personalities trying to share what they know. And they are saying a lot of things. And I've seen some of them, a small fraction. And I've also seen some people who lean more on the conservative side of things or pro freedom side of things, how they bemoan the fact that a lot of people on the right are bringing up her sexual history, right? The fact that she literally slept her way uh, into a lot of powerful positions, which then gave her the leverage to be able to move into more powerful positions, et cetera, and eventually become senator in California, which of course set her up for a run for the White House. But whenever you put her in the spotlight, whenever all of the attention is put on her in a very particularly stressful, knowledge requiring situation, she kind of folds. In other words, she cannot answer the challenge, stand up to the challenge that is thrown her way. People can say whatever it is that they want, and I know simply because of the rules of subjectivity, if something matters to you to the point where it disqualifies that person as a receiver of your vote, then you're going to talk about it. And of course, other people are going to say, oh, that's not important. That shouldn't influence your vote. Oh, but it does, right? So for a lot of other people, whatever they believe, right, it always comes back to the same thing. Your subjectivity as to what is important probably does not match up with other people. So what do you do in that situation? Do you force silence on other people? Do you force some kind of conformity, or you let all of the subjectivities play out? And it's by the results that you can then figure out what better to do next time. But you can't coerce a certain outcome, right? So the best outcomes come through voluntary participation. I will note, though, that Gerald Celente, who is the point man in the Trends in the News YouTube channel. Also, he has it used to be largely a hard copy magazine, but it's largely online, I believe. But Trends in the News, and he is an awesome trends forecaster, right? So it's not. I mean, he's very, very much pro peace, anti corruption, very knowledgeable about how the government works and how to put together a winning campaign platform. He believes that Kamala Harris is going to win the presidential election primarily because of women and the abortion issue, right? So that pesky virtue signaling behavior that you see, which is strongest among women, right? Particularly upper class white women, you'll see that becomes extremely influential. And just so you know, when it comes to very personal issues like an abortion, like pregnancy, it's none of my business, right? And it shouldn't be the business of any politician, but they will try to raise the issue, make the issue important as if there are only certain situations where abortion is going to be criminalized, or a lot of people won't have it, and therefore your freedom is going to be, eradicated. But all of it is extremely hypocritical, and I'm sure you are well aware of this, right? If it is all about your body, then why does it cease being your body when it comes to other issues? If your right to your body, what you do with your body, is the basis of the abortion argument, then why doesn't that argument fly with other things such as vaccinations, right? You get the idea. And so it's none of my business, right? So when you are in that situation where you're even considering it, that is such, I mean, if you take it seriously and you understand what it is that you are doing, uh, it's that person's choice. If they want your advice, if they want your input, they will ask you. But otherwise, my approach has always been about prevention, right? So if you do get pregnant, it's because you want to, right? So so people can say whatever it is that they want, because you never know what will sway a voter, what will convince a voter to vote differently. This brings us to democracy, of course, ruled by the people. And I've been sort of coming up with this. I don't feel like researching it, right? Because I'm pretty much know what I'm going to find. So um, I'm just going to say it here. Democracy is an idea that is pushed in the Communist Manifesto. And I talked about that in my episodes, which cover the manifesto. But if you look at communist regimes, or very, very socialistic type societies, and they can be called fascist, social democrats, what is it, democratic socialists, or whatever name they want to give themselves, there's only one party, right? There's only one group of people that you are going to vote for. And so when people talk about democracy, that's what they're moving towards, right? Get rid of the Republican Party, get rid of, because they're fascists, right? Get rid of those people, get rid of those people because they're evil. And now you have democracy, right? Ruled by the people. So when you go to the polls to vote, yeah, there's only one person to vote for, right? So ruled by the people. And so the democratic system is too easily corrupted, particularly in the Democratic Party, the way they have their delegates set up, and there's like 4,000 delegates. It's pretty convoluted. The system is that system is easily corrupted, right? They have super delegates, and you can totally easily see how it is easy to be manipulated. You make promises to certain delegates, and so they're going to vote one way or the other. And so while they scream democracy, it's not democracy, right? The votes of the actual voters really don't matter. I mean, all this time they've been voting for Biden, supporting him in spite of all of his shortcomings. But as soon as they are given an alternate choice, the vast majority of the Democrats will jump ship, which tells you they never really believed that Biden was a valid, viable candidate. But they were loyal to the party, and so they kept their support for him. But as soon as they had an alternate, no matter how bad that alternate is, they jump to that person. Now, you might say, bad. Well, yeah. I mean, anyone who has ever listened to her talk, you know that, wow, she just really kind of, uh, I'm embarrassed for her family, right? I'll give you a couple examples of some things that she said. You really must unburden yourself from what has been, uh, or you unburden yourself from what has been, uh, right? And she would say that over and over and over again in many of her speeches. Unburden yourself from what has been. Okay, if you really think about it, what does that mean? Forget about the past. That's what it kind of means. Don't let the past trouble you. All the mistakes you did in the past, yet repeat them, right? Just unburden yourself from your responsibility. And then she said, today is today, and yesterday was today, yesterday. And remember, tomorrow will be today, tomorrow. What does that mean? Well, yeah, whatever day you're living, you're going to say today. So yesterday you said today, yesterday, and but what's the point? Like, what lesson are you trying to convey? Live in the moment? Then just say live in the moment. Here's another quote. So I think it's very important for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past, but the future. And I've talked about convoluted writing and speaking just like this, right? Where it sounds like you are being profound, but really it's just a lot of words put together in the form of a sentence, which says absolutely nothing, right? If I were to summarize it, it would just basically be when you make choices, you have to consider the past as you look to the future, right? And so it's very simple, but it's kind of obvious, right? You don't need to, in other words, no one would say, "Oh, that's really profound." No, it's just sort of what most people come to realize as they get older. But you can't be so simple, right? So you're just going to try to say it in the longest, most convoluted, unintelligible way possible. Okay, here's another one. Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong. Yeah, she wasn't talking to a child. Although I did see a promotional video for Harris today where she was talking to a child, right? So a small child was talking to her, asking questions, and she would respond, right? So I think it was about gun control. And so she would talk to a child, a 6-year-old child, which I refer to weaponization of children, right? But so you go for the all factor. But anyone who listens to Harris, you really do have to be mentally, intellectually on the level of a 6-year old, because that's how she talks to you, right? Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. I mean, seriously, really? And that must be the level of the people who want to vote for her. And she really is not good under stress. Every time she laughs, it's an indication that she is very uncomfortable. But as president, that job itself is extremely stressful. So, on the one hand, I really don't want to hear her laugh for 4 years. On the other hand, I do know that Gerald Celente is often very correct in his predictions. And also, on my left foot, you know, uh, I kind of wish that she wins because, um, if the economy goes to pot, then you want to have someone on the other party, political party, a less favored political party take the hit. So if Trump wins and the economy tanks as it will, then it'll be put on Republicans and so-called capitalistic thinking, right? And it'll be a while before they can unwind a lot of that stuff. So Harris, she wants to become president for what, right? I mean, yeah, a lot of people are pulling her strings, but what does she want? She wants power. She wants the fame. She wants to be able to ride jets and go to foreign countries. I don't know. But one must consider that when she becomes president, if and when she becomes president, how does this affect the standing of America and the rest of the world? I mean, Biden already made it terribly obvious that it doesn't matter who the president is, right? Anyone who thinks that Biden was actually making a lot of the decisions, especially when it came to foreign policy, I think you're out of your mind. I think this is just not plausible, even, right? The dude takes naps most of the day. There is no way that he is in charge of foreign policy. I mean, he's informed and he rubber stamps what other people are saying, but there is no way this is coming from Biden. So, what will Harris do? And then, what will other world leaders see when they look at her? I mean, if you do this whole Ukraine is a country in Europe, right? I wonder if she spoke like that um, to Netanyahu when he came and visited the United States. By the way, I tried very hard to watch Netanyahu's speech to Congress, and I only got through like 3, 4 minutes, and I really thought I was at a Taylor Swift concert. The way that people were just so going crazy at the end of every sentence. That wow, it was just it was very interesting. Um, I'm not also sure what other people might think of Donald Trump, right? Clearly, other people, other in other countries, are looking at Donald Trump and examining the things that he says and says, "Wow, he really is full of himself," right? And so, does this mean that he'll be a good leader? This mean that my country will have a good relationship with the United States? It puts everything up in the air. He says a lot of things, maybe as a misdirect, maybe to puff himself up or to puff the United States up. But I don't know. I wouldn't do that if I was in that position. That's certainly not what I would do. How I would go about doing things. Especially the impression that other people in other countries have of America, especially if you talk about the things that Harris has said and what she continues to say and how she says it. There are a lot of things to be worried about. Your trade agreements, war. I mean, this person is going to have the finger on the nuclear launch button. Is that seriously what we want? And that kind of fear, that kind of uncertainty of what someone like that will do when push comes to shove, I think is, you know, makes me nervous, right? And so finally, let's talk about lying and the lack of transparency. So most recently, people said, "Oh, well, you were the border czar. Uh, how'd you do?" And she's like, "Oh, I never was the border czar." And then, of course, everyone's bringing out the news articles and video clips where she was made the border czar, where she's supposed to take care of the border. But you have all these people, these mouthpieces for propaganda, simply saying, "Yeah, that never happened." And so that's clearly a lie. But you have a lot of these sycophants. You have all these people who want a piece of that power, access to Washington, D.C. They go along with it. Then you have all these people who hate Trump so much that they'll believe anything, that grasping at straws, right? Like think about all the years where Biden clearly was senile and or suffering from dementia, and they refused to talk about it. But as soon as they had the opportunity, they say, okay, he's got to go. So the same situation here where, okay, yeah, they're lying, they're hiding lots of things, but I'm not gonna disbelieve it. I'm gonna go along with it because that's what I'm supposed to do. So the lies are easy to refute, especially if reporters did their job, right? Just reported, fact check, whatever, but they don't, right? Because clearly they are just working for the deep state, right? And thanks to the media, where they stoked all of this hatred against Trump, all the more reason it doesn't matter, right? Because whoever this person is, it's not Trump, right? So the work, the time that is required to show that something is a lie, right? It's not instant, right? So it takes up a certain amount of time, especially if you don't have a huge audience and you can't reach all these people, particularly if those people think that you're a nut job, a conspiracy theorist. They're not going to listen to you. So by the time you put together your argument, that liar has told five more lies, which means now you have five more lies that you have to show were in fact lies. But see, you're sitting here like me, trying to show that these are all lies, whereas the listening public, the public that wants to be lied to, that wants to pretend that life is good, that they're doing the right thing, living comfortably in their upper middle class or upper class homes and lifestyles, right? Uh, they don't care. They've moved on. I've got my lie. I can feel good about myself doing the right thing. So I don't need to do anything else. This superficial level of thinking, yeah, they can do it. They can afford to do that. But we have to realize that there are real consequences coming. So, and all I've mentioned it before, sovereign debt crisis, especially potentially hyperinflation, whatever. So I go back and forth on voting, right? Should I vote? Does it matter? Uh, but I am trying to focus more on the local areas, right? So my neighborhood, they left us alone, even though we didn't cancel any of our services. We kept meeting on Sunday. Um, I had all of my personal family gatherings, like we went with my parents. We'd have large family gatherings, and it didn't, we didn't care, and no one bothered us. And so, I'm trying to do more locally, but of course, my problem is that I'm a pastor too, and I don't want that to be sort of a point of accusation and become a problem for the community or even for my congregation. And so all I can do really is teach at school and do a podcast, right? So the lying will continue. It's so easy to lie. The work that is required to show people that it was a lie is on the level that it requires a lot of time. And during that time, you're trying to show people it's a lie. Those liars have told more lies. And you're always in the hole. You're always trying to catch up to all of those lies. And it can get really frustrating. So all we can do is try to prepare ourselves make ourselves more independent as possible. And I know it's really hard. It's hard for me as well, especially trying to raise four boys, trying to teach them how to be independent of all of the currents of the world. Especially think about it, if they bring in the draft, my kids, they're going to be going, so how do you get out of that? How do you fight that? So hopefully, talking about this, spreading all of these ideas, someone will come up with a way, or we'll have the, sovereign debt crisis first. In any case, this is me venting a lot of my frustration, and I will talk to you next time.